All right. Hi again, everyone. Today we're going to be looking at some grammar, some style, things like that. And you may wonder, well, this course is called Writing Essays for Literature, right? But before you can write about literature, you first have to figure out how to write. So what I'm going to show you, basically, I'm going to show you things that I wish someone had showed me before I went to university. Simple things like the comma, and then stylistic things to think about. Remember, by the way, always have your notes in front of you, right? So just because I'm giving you this lecture, you're going to want to make notes on certain things. And I can see one coming up right away, the very first word that we're going to talk about, all right? So make sure you understand that. So, as I say, before we can actually start looking at literature, it's important that we understand the fundamentals of writing. So I'm not going to teach you, 1,000 different things in this lecture. I'm simply going to show you what I've noticed over 30 years of teaching writing courses. There are certain things that many first-year writers, the mistakes that many first-year writers make, all right? I'm simply going to show you what those are. And if you follow, you will be able to improve your writing before you even write your first essay. And I'm not joking about that. So think about what I'm going to do today, all right? It's part of this course, but it should apply to all of your courses if you are writing essays. As a matter of fact, many of the things we're going to do on this course, I'm going to show you how they will apply to other disciplines as well, all right? Outside the field of literature, organization, structure, right, which we're going to get to, right, later on. Okay, so let's begin with the most basic thing. What is a clause? So you've got it right there in your notes. Isn't it nice that I provided you with all these notes, right? But remember, you still want to make little notes for yourself. Don't be afraid to pause the lecture, right? And just write things down so that it reinforces your understanding of the material. I don't want you sending me email saying, well, what did you mean by that? Okay? Well, no, I'm explaining it right now, all right? So here we go. A clause is simply a group of words. It doesn't mean a sentence necessarily, right? It simply means a group of words. The man, okay? That's a clause. It's some words. There are different types of clauses, as I'll show you in a second, right? But let's just keep it simple for now, okay? A clause equals a group of words. That's it. Now, the reason why I'm saying this, by the way, is I'm going to get a bit more sophisticated in a moment and later on in the course. And so if you understand that word, clause, then other things will fall into place. So a clause is a group of words. That's it. Right? With the example I had there, okay? A great player. A great player is not a sentence, but it is a clause. Now, there's different types of clauses. And this makes perfect sense when you think about it. And this is about the most technical thing I'm going to say in this lecture, all right? The lecture should go maybe about an hour. I'm not even sure. I might even pause halfway through just to get my thoughts. But there are different types of clauses. The two most basic for now. So please, again, don't be shouting at your computer or wanting to email me, but there are others as well. Yes, there are. We'll get to it. Let's start with the basics. So we have what is known as a dependent clause and an independent clause. Okay, think about it just for a moment. Break it down. Keep it simple, right? If you are still living at home and are rely on your parents or your guardians or what have you to feed you and clothe you or what have you, well then you would be seen as a dependent. In other words, you rely on other things. So a dependent clause would be a group of words. This is where you should really be taking notes. A dependent clause is a group of words that do not stand on their own. In a great player, okay, that needs something else in order to make it into a proper sentence, or what we also call, can you follow now? An independent clause. Independent stands on its own. An independent clause simply means, don't make it complicated, simply means it's a group of words that stand on its own. Okay, that's it. That's it. So you've got an independent clause, a proper sentence. Then you have dependent clauses, groups of words that need other things to create a proper sentence. That's about all I want to do with that for now. all right? As I said, for those of you who really understand grammar and punctuation and all that, yes, there are things called subordinating clause, all that kind of stuff. I don't care about that for now. We are building in this course. We are building as we go along, okay? So let's just take it easy, right? Once you get the foundations, everything else falls into place. It's really interesting the way writing works. Writing, I think I referred to this in the introductory lecture. Writing seems to be a very abstract thing, right? But by the time we're done with this course, I'm going to show you how to make it more concrete, make it more tangible, make it more, not relatable, but basically I will show you how to build an essay, okay? Rather than simply having a whole lot of ideas and wondering, how do I put all this together? That's what I'm going to show you. Okay, that'll be about lecture 3 or 4, somewhere around there. But as I said, we'll get to it. We'll get to it. All right? So, now we have clauses, dependent and independent. And now we understand what we mean by that. And the reason why I'm laying that out right now, I'm going to use terms like that later on. And so I just want to make sure we all understand. Okay? And that's it. That's it. Now, the next thing we want to talk about is the comma. And again, I wish someone had shown me this before I went to university. All right? I was taught that when you take a pause in your writing, this is the kind of thing we would have fun with if we were in a classroom right now, because I'd be asking you, well, what were you taught? Don't worry about whether you're right or not. What were you taught? And most people will say they were taught, well, when you take a pause, that's where you should put a comma. Well, that is not a very good rule, all right? As a matter of fact, it's not a rule. It's not a rule. But it's exactly what I was told, okay? I could go into so many problems with that, all right? Like some people are long-winded, some people, more introverted or what have you. So that's not a good rule. So let's look at the comma rules, right? Basic comma rules. I'm going to show you 5 things, okay? 5 things. And by the time I'm done, you're actually going to see you only need 4. 4 of these rules are incredibly simple. They're incredibly straightforward. But there is one rule that is very complicated, and it tends to screw up, okay, sentence structure. And so I'm going to show. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to confuse you when we get to number 4, right? Number 4 and number 5. I can't remember exactly how I have it. It might be number 5, but I'm going to confuse you. Then I'm going to show you how to fix the confusion. All right? So stick with me. You'll see what I mean. So let's look at the very first one. 2A, okay? The word but. Whenever you see that word, notice the way I have it written, all right? It's a lowercase, meaning a small b. Whenever you have that word in the middle of a sentence, you will always need a comma preceding it. Why? Watch me, okay? Just watch my language, or my body language. So I'm talking, and I'm talking, and I'm talking, but, see what I did there? In other words, the word but indicates a shift, right? Indicates a shift in your thought process. So here's an interesting thing to think about when it comes to grammar, punctuation, all of that. These things are not there for the writer, okay? They are there for the reader. You're trying to give the reader a flow, a kind of map of how you're getting through your ideas. This is something we don't think about at the high school level, right? And I apologize if you haven't been in high school for a while, but most of you are just out of high school. This is something we don't think about. We simply have our own styles and we just write the way we want. But no, you should be very conscious of how you use certain words. And so, as I said, a word like but indicates to the reader that I was saying one thing, but now I'm going somewhere else. So think about how you use a word like that, okay? As opposed to and. You should never interchange but with and. They are two totally different ideas, okay, when it comes to writing. But means a shift in thought. And simply means you're adding on to the thought, right? Okay, so I'm sure most of you get that. So notice in my notes, all right? But is what we call a conjunction. I don't care about that. I honestly don't care. I am not going to test you on anything like that. All I want you to know is how to use the word properly in a sentence. That's all. That's all I care about. So remember, the word but will always be preceded by a comma because it's a shift in thought, except when you use it, it's funny, except when you use it as except. So let me give you an idea. Everybody but John went to the store. Now in that case, right, we wouldn't have a comma there because what we really mean, and by the way, we probably wouldn't write it that way. We would probably say everybody except John went to the store. All right, see the difference there? But that is the one exception. If you ever did write that way, you wouldn't need the comma. But 99.99999 times, right, you will want the comma before the word but. Okay? Another little style thing, by the way. I'm not saying this is a rule. Don't start sentences with the word but. All right? If you start to figure out how to create really good sentence construction, you won't need to do that. All right? So it's just poor style. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm simply saying it's poor style. Okay? All right. I was going to say kind of like my hair today, but anyway, all right. All right, so number 2, okay, or to be, or not to be, that is the question. When you're writing out a series, you guys know this, I don't need to spend too much time on that. So I like apples, comma, oranges, comma, peaches, and cream. But notice, why did I choose the words the way that I did? Well, in English, okay, or not just in English, but the phrase peaches and cream, sometimes that can be seen as one unit, okay? If you understand corn, all right? Like corn can sometimes be called peaches and cream corn. So I've chosen those words very carefully the way I've written that. So there's going to be 2 things I want to talk about here, okay? If you want to make sure that your meaning is clear, okay? Let's just say you were ordering 1,000 cases of apples, oranges, peaches, and cream, and you wrote it the way that I have it listed there. That could cause confusion. Right? Now, again, I don't know, it probably won't apply to this course particularly, but in your other writing for other disciplines, or maybe in your work, like if you have a job outside of school, well then, that's where things like that matter. So let's just say I know that I want, 4 separate items. I want cream, peaches, oranges, and apples. Well, it might be better if I simply wrote I like apples, comma, or I want to order 1,000 cases, we'll say, of apples, comma, oranges, comma, peaches, comma, and cream. Now that might surprise you. In fact, yes, you can put a comma after peaches. And for those of you who are brainy asses, you'd have your hand up right now wanting to say, it's called, right? And yes, it's called the Oxford comma. Right? The comma before the word and. It's rarely used, but it is totally acceptable. Nothing wrong with it. Okay. So you could have the comma before the word and that would certainly indicate 4 different items. But I would argue, and this is always what good writers do. You think, well, are there better solutions? Well, why not just put peaches at the very beginning? Okay. I like peaches, or I would like to order 1,000 cases of peaches, comma, apples, comma, and then why not? Oranges, comma, and cream. And all of a sudden your meaning becomes clearer. So again, that probably won't apply to this course particularly, but it's good to know. Something just to be aware of, okay? Yeah. The third one, this is something you were probably told. Yeah, it's funny, I changed my notes for this particular course because I'm getting to the difficult one at the end, all right? So when you were younger, you were probably told that you should never begin a sentence with the word because. Well, in fact, that's not true. There are times where the word because is a perfect word to begin a sentence. But the reason you were told that is because if you begin a sentence with the word because, you will end up creating what is known as a passive sentence. But as I said, there are times, I'm going to show you this over and over again when we start to get into organization and structure, but there are times where it's a perfect word to use. So for now, I'm just going to tell you what that is, but I'll elaborate later on. Let's just say you have a long paper and you were talking about, say, the Iraq War, the first Iraq War. And let's just say you were arguing that religion, okay, played an important part in the conflict. Okay. We're getting to the end of talking about religion. And so think of a sentence like this. Okay? And I'm going to use although now, okay? Because I have them both there. I want to show you how we use words like although and because. Although religion played an important part in the major conflict in Iraq, okay, comma, economics played an even larger one. So notice, that is a passive sentence, right? But what I've done there is I've created what we call a transitional sentence. Now again, don't worry too much about that just yet. When we get into organization, structure, and all of that, I'm going to go into that in detail, okay? Paragraphing, everything else, right? We got lots we're going to do on this course, right? Lots. So let's just go slowly, okay? So although X, now I'm getting to the structure of how we use words like that, it has to be although X, and X would stand for a clause. So now you see why we started with that word. Although X, and so X is some words. So it's not a full sentence, it's some words, right? Then we need a comma, and then Y would be some other words or another clause. And there are thousands of different ways that we can structure these things, right? But one thing I want to make very, very clear, if I see this on an essay, you're going to lose marks. Never begin a sentence with the word although, comma. I'm going to say it again. Never begin a sentence with the word although, comma. It has to be although X, although with some words, then the comma. Please do not make that mistake, all right? Again, I don't know why. We see this more and more, okay? It is incorrect. That's not a stylistic thing. It's incorrect, okay? Now, there are times where you could do that in the middle of sentences, but not if you're starting a sentence with the word although. Never, ever have although, comma. Never. There's a reason why I keep saying that over and over again, okay? It's going to come up later on, all right? So remember, okay? It has to be although X, okay, in some words, then the comma, then Y. And the same thing with because, okay? And so that's how we use sentences like that. So as I said, they work for transitional sentences. No problem. All right? You shouldn't overuse them, obviously, because then you are getting into the passive voice, right? But for the purposes of a transitional sentence, fine. As a matter of fact, moving from later on, I'm going to show you how we break down papers, and we'll be talking about sections, okay? Rather than paragraphs, we'll be talking about sections. And so the best time to use because or although is when we move from one section into another. Okay? And again, don't email me. We'll get to it. All right? Although I'll bet some of you already know what I'm talking about. Okay, so here we go. 2D, or the fourth rule, is very simple. Okay? And so are the first three, right? So far, no problem. When we use words, take a look at the way I've written this, okay? So please make a note of that, highlight that, right? Make sure, again, you have your notes in front of you. If you don't, these lectures won't mean much, right? That's why I sent you the notes, so that you also can be working on these things as we work it through. If you follow this properly, I have a funny feeling, even though we're doing this online, if we do this properly, because now I'm providing you with all the notes, grades should go up, right, overall. And so, like I said, I'm giving you everything here. Like now, if you want, pause, highlight, make a note of what I'm about to say next or what have you. Well, I guess you can't really pause and then write down what I'm about to say next, but you know what I mean. So, take a look at the phrases and the words that I have, okay? Take a look at the way I've set this up. Introductory words, phrases, comma. Now, again, highlight that. Notice the word introductory, okay, has a capital I. What that means, I know I'm being very obvious. What that means is we're at the beginning of the sentence. Again, I'm starting with the basics, all right? I want you all to improve. So, the word the word introductory with a capital I, we're at the beginning of the sentence. Now, look at all the words that I have, and there are hundreds. Actually, there are thousands of those as well. On the one hand, on the other hand, firstly, secondly. therefore, furthermore, okay? And then the one word that is one of the biggest style wreckers in the English language, however. And I'm going to show you when we get to number 5 what I mean by that. All right, I'm going to ask you to write down a sentence, okay? And then I'm going to show you some problems. So, as long as we have those types of words and phrases at the beginning of our sentences, they are always followed by a comma. And then, what should follow after that? After the comma should be an independent clause, a proper sentence. So let me say that again, all right? Let me say it again. We have these words like furthermore, therefore. I'm going to ask you a question. Are they necessary for the sentence? Well, in fact, they're not. Why do we have them in the sentence? Well, it goes back to something I said earlier. These words provide a map of your thoughts as you move through the paper. So, when you say therefore, okay, in other words, you can't just use these words interchangeably. When you say therefore, okay, you are more or less like almost concluding, right? When you say furthermore, you're adding on to, okay, the thought or what have you. When you say however, what are you doing? Well, once again, you're shifting thought. And so I want to show you, this is going to get tricky. This is going to get tricky, but again, we'll get through it. We'll get through it, okay? Just remember what we mean by clauses, okay? Groups of words, dependent, independent, okay, etc. So let's do that one again. We have these introductory words, therefore, furthermore, however, okay? Always followed by a comma, and then the rest of what we have should be a proper sentence. Okay, an independent clause, if we've done it correctly. That's it, all right? I think those 4 rules are very straightforward. It's where we get to the 5th rule. This is where our writing collapses if we really don't understand the writing process. So let's do it, okay? Okay. In number 4, we have introductory words or phrases. Now in number 5, or 2E, I want you to think about this, and again, after I say this, pause, make some notes, okay? Because this is confusing. It's confusing to those of us who really don't understand, you know, all the mechanics of writing. I have X. It's a capital X, meaning, okay, I've got a clause, okay, I'm starting my sentence, right, with a clause, a group of words. Not an independent clause, just a group of words. 99% of the time, a dependent clause, simply some words. Then I have a comma. Then I have those very same introductory words or phrases that we just looked at in 2D. However, furthermore, therefore. But now they're in the middle of the sentence, okay? Or at least they're not at the beginning. Okay? Now, please pay attention. Those of you who aren't strong writers, watch what I'm about to do. This is so important, all right? So I have those words in the middle of the sentence. Then I have a comma. Then I have Y. Y simply standing for another group of words, okay? Another clause. Okay. If I do this properly, and by the way, I can do this. I can have, you know, the introductory words and phrases in the middle of sentences. I can do it. But I have to know how to do it. Otherwise, I'm going to create something known as a comma splice, which we're going to get to in lecture 3 or 4, all right? But just for now, watch what I'm doing. If I do this correctly, I should be able to take the 2 commas out and the introductory word or phrase. I should be able to take the clause that I have at the beginning, X, and the clause that I have at the end, the clause, I just noticed that. Sorry, kidding. The clause at the beginning and the clause at the end. I should be able to put those 2 clauses together, those 2 groups of words, okay, not sentences, 2 groups of words, and they should create a nice, smooth, independent clause, a proper sentence. Now, notice how complicated that was. Okay? So now I want you to write down a sentence, okay? So just write this down and punctuate it. And then I'm going to tell you how you probably punctuated it. Then I'm going to show you, I'm going to confuse you and show you, no, John loves ice cream. However, if he eats too much, it gives him gas. Okay? I'm just making this up off the top of my head. Oh, sorry, there it is. I've got it right there. Okay? So, John loves chocolate ice cream. However, okay, Jill does not like ice cream on hot days. Okay? I like my first one better. But anyway. All right, so there it is. Okay? Okay, so take a look at how I punctuated that there. All right? The first one, John loves ice cream. However, Jill does not like ice cream on hot days. That's incorrect. I can't do that. Why? And by the way, I know you're getting confused right now. Don't worry, I'm going to fix it. All right? Clause. All right. Anyway, so why can't I do that? Well, because John loves chocolate ice cream, right? That's an independent clause. That's a group of words that stand on their own, right? John is the subject. Okay. What about John? He loves. What does he love? Doesn't matter. So John is the subject, loves is the verb, and then chocolate ice cream is the object. Don't worry, I'm going to get into stuff like that as well in another lecture, okay? We're just doing the basics for now, just the basics. I just want to show you a couple of things to fix so you don't have to think, well, what do I do in this case, all right? All right. And so, if I was to take however and the two commas out, John loves ice cream. Jill does not like ice cream on hot days. Well, that doesn't sound right, does it? You have two separate sentences there. So it doesn't work. Don't worry, I'm going to fix this in a moment. Now, if you know what you're doing, yes, you can have however in the middle of the sentence. So, here we go. Sally, however, thought there were major problems with the proposal. Okay, so let's take the however out and the commas and read the sentence. Sally thought there were major problems with the proposal. So in that case, it's fine. Okay, so let's slow down. Let's slow down. As a matter of fact, I might take a break here because we're going to get into some common grammar mistakes. I just want to make sure like we're all on the same page. But let's fix this confusion that I created for some of you. Okay, I don't understand the difference between the incorrect and the correct examples there. I don't understand it. Okay. Here's a trick. And this trick works. I'm not kidding. All right? Let's just say you are not a strong writer. Or at least, let's just say I did confuse you with number 5, 2E, with the X introductory words and phrases Y. Let's just say you got confused. Because I think the other 4, they were straightforward. Were they not? Okay. From now on, never have those introductory words or phrases in the middle of your sentences. Instead, always have them at the beginning. If you do it that way, then you know, well, once I have that introductory word or phrase at the beginning of my sentence, I simply have a comma after. And then I go ahead and write the rest of the sentence. That's it. That's how you... This is one of the things we're going to see as we go through the rest of this lecture. We're already half an hour in. It's amazing. And so what I'm trying to show you, I'm not trying to give you a whole lot of rules. Instead, I'm trying to minimize the possibilities of being incorrect. There's a huge difference there. Now, if this was a grammar course, okay, if that was the whole goal, then yeah, I would be teaching the rules of grammar and I'd be a stickler for things like that. But when it comes to writing, right, as long as you don't make mistakes, right, well then your writing is improving. And so let me just say that one more time. I'm not trying to show you a whole lot of rules. I'm trying to minimize the possibilities. That's really important for number 4 on the lecture, as you'll see. Most of the lectures, by the way, I think I mentioned this in the first lecture, I won't have numbers like that. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page, right? And so like I said, if you got confused with the final example I gave there, get words like however, furthermore. However, as I said, however is a style record. Quite often, and that's why I chose the example of chocolate ice cream, however, okay? That's exactly what I see in first year papers, okay? And so instead, let's get the however at the beginning. So let's fix that right now, Okay, so let's fix that. Then I think, yeah, I'll take a small break. And then you won't even notice I've taken a break. I'll be sitting right here again. And so let's fix this, okay? John loves chocolate ice cream. So there's a couple of things we can do here. In high school, I know you were taught that you could actually put a semicolon there. And it's true, you can, to break up the two phrases, right? But what I want to try and ingrain in your heads is, please get rid of semicolons. In high school, I'm going to finish with that today. So let me wait until the end of the lecture. All right, it's almost the last thing I'm going to talk about. All right, semicolons and dashes and parentheses and all that kind of stuff. The better way to affix the two phrases, okay, would have been this, and it's going to sound choppy. But again, I'll elaborate. I'll show you how we can avoid all that kind of stuff as well as we progress. John loves chocolate ice cream. Period. Capital H. So I hope now you're taking notes. If you were confused, notice what I just did there. John loves chocolate ice cream. Period. Oh, wait. Now all of a sudden, where is my introductory word or phrase? Go back to number 4 or 2D, it's at the beginning of the sentence. However, okay, with a capital H, comma, Jill does not like ice cream on hot days. So, maybe the example isn't the greatest example, but at least you know you've done it correctly. So remember, if you're really good at writing, don't even worry about it. But if you have any concerns whatsoever, if you got confused there, get all those words in 2D on the one hand, on the other hand, firstly, secondly, furthermore, therefore, however. Get them at the beginning of your sentences, follow them with a comma, and then go ahead and give the rest of the sentence. Okay? And as long as you do that, you should be fine. Later on, we'll talk about editing. Not in great detail, but we'll talk about how do you catch comma splices and things like that. By the way, that's a comma splice, okay? The example, John loves ice cream, however, that's what we call a comma splice. We're going to get to it. So again, if you're really good at writing, please don't be emailing me saying, well, but I learned or I was taught, okay? And that's another thing I really don't want you doing on this course, right? Don't email me telling me what you were taught in high school. This is not high school, all right? So the rules I'm giving you, right, apply to, proper writing. But this whole idea of semicolons and all that, you really want to get rid of that. Okay. Sorry, I'm on a tangent right now. I think I'm going to take a break, and then I'll come back. You won't even know. I might be gone for a minute. I might be gone for 2 hours, right? But I'm going to be sitting right here again, and then we'll get into common grammar mistakes. By the way, everything we just did there, that was the most technical stuff we're going to do today. All right. Everything else is just little things you should be aware of, and we want to just clean them up, right, as we move forward in the course. Okay. So as I said, I'll be back in 15 years. All right. Okay. All right. Ooh. I don't think I aged much in those 15 years. But anyway. All right. So, as I said, smooth sailing, I think, for the rest of the lecture today. Will be maybe another half hour, maybe a bit more. And that'll be usually the way it works. Obviously, like I discussed in the first lecture, it's going to be, very different online. But we'll get through it. Don't worry about it. As a matter of fact, it's funny. Just a bit of a coincidence. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, I used to teach on what was called ITV for the longest time. That's just a coincidence, but for about 15 years I taught ITV, and so I figured out ways of teaching that should be nice and clear. All right, so anyway, so now number 3. Okay, so now we're still on page 2, and we're at number 3. The second part, by the way, will fly by. You'll see. I want to explain, I don't necessarily want to explain the difference between the contraction and the possessive case. I want to show you how how they can create problems when you use them both in your writing. All right? So I'm going to say that again. Let's just be nice and clear, okay? Right now, I want to ask you one thing. For those of you who are going to do well in this course, you're going to do one thing for me right now. You're going to agree. Look at the phrase that I have. Don't write the way you speak. And notice I have the word don't underlined. So, again, we're starting with the fundamentals. The word don't is an example of a contraction. Okay? So again, pause, make a note. Okay, that's a contraction. I know, most of you know that. A contraction is where we take two words and fuse them together, okay, with the use of the apostrophe, right? In your writing, instead of writing don't, write do not. Now, I know that sounds very formal, okay, but that is what you should be doing in your writing. Why? Not because it's a rule, because of what I'm about to show you in number 4. So follow along. Okay. I know some of you will want to email me because you're not making notes and following along. So follow along and just accept the terms that I'm giving you. All right. But I was told, I don't care what you were told. I'm trying to fix things for you. All right. And I sound like a prick, don't I? I don't mean to. But seriously. I want to just eliminate all the problems, okay? If we can start with that, then the rest of the course is a breeze. I don't want to be fixing stuff like what I'm showing you here. That's partly why I'm doing this lecture, all right? Like, I don't want to be circling things saying, you shouldn't be doing this or avoid this or whatever. And there's about 4 or 5 others that I'm going to show you. There are literally about 10 mistakes that most first-year writers make. It's the same 10 mistakes. That's what I'm fixing here, all right? Okay, so the reason why I'm telling you to get rid of contractions, they cause confusion. You have too many choices. And look at the words that I have at number 4. Many people don't even realize the word ITS is a word. I'm not kidding. You might think I'm kidding. I'm not. Never use the word IT apostrophe S. If you mean it is, write it is. The word ITS, okay? Yeah, the word ITS is the possessive case. Okay, so I better slow down. When I say the possessive case, unlike other languages, right? In English, right? There's different ways that we can show the possessive case, and quite often it is with an apostrophe. Okay, so I'm going to get to that in just a second. Let me give you a sentence. Write it out. Okay, just write the sentence out. The student, okay, found. Let me say that differently, okay? I found its contents, okay, incorrect, okay? So I'm talking about a proposal or something like that. So I found its contents were incorrect. It's, okay? So the contents belonging to the proposal. So ITS, that's a possessive case, belonging to, that's what we mean by possessive case, belonging to. And it simply means belonging to, in that case, an inanimate object. Okay? So it's like belonging to an inanimate object, a proposal or what have you. Okay? I found its argument, okay, unconvincing. Okay? So the argument of the proposal or what have you. All right? Okay. Now, the next one I'm going to show you, I'm not going to do them all. Like you've got the examples there, okay? Don't write your as in Y-O-U apostrophe R-E, write U-R. That's what that stands for. But when you mean that is your book, all right, well then you write Y-O-U-R. Same with whose, okay? So who, W-O-H-O apostrophe S means who is. So that would be creating an interrogative sentence or a question, right? Okay, almost always. Whose, on the other hand, whose book is that? Okay, that's when you would write who, W-H-O-S-E, right? But now the big one. This is the one where people get screwed up. There, and there. Oh my gosh. Okay, so just do me a favor right now, and I'm not kidding. If you want to get a high grade, if I see this mistake in your writing, you will not get a high grade, guaranteed, okay? Because these are easy things to fix. Get rid of the word T-H-E-Y apostrophe R-E. Get rid of it right now. It doesn't exist in your writing. The minute you do that, then you've only got two choices, because this is the most confusing word when it comes to possessives. All right? T-H-E-I-R simply means belonging to them. Pause right now and write that down in your notes. Belonging to them. That is their house. That is the house that belongs to them. By the way, you will be tested on this kind of stuff, right? So pause, okay? There, the word there means belonging to them. So belonging to, again, that's the possessive case. Okay? All right. 99% of the time, the word you will want is T-H-E-R-E, which simply means, right, over there. Right? The house is over there. And so there, in that case, right, referring to space or right? But hey, I can't make it any clearer. Get rid of T-H-E-Y apostrophe R-E. And by the way, I have made mistakes like that because of, well, I could even show you right now, because of something like that. If you can't make out what that is, that's my phone. And so when it comes to texting, we use abbreviations, right? We use acronyms. I'll get into that as well later. An acronym is simply if you were talking about the National Hockey League and you wrote NHL, right? So when it comes to being concise, right, then we tend to write like that. But don't do it in your essays. These are university essays that we're writing, okay? Keep that in mind, right? We want to be formal. Now, I'm not asking you to speak that way, right? You sound like a knob, right? But when it comes to your writing, get rid of contractions, okay? Simple as that, all right? And so I could go into the whole lecture there, but I mean, you can read it because I provided you with the notes. The reason why I'm telling you to get rid of these things, you've got too many choices, too many possibilities, causes confusion. That's the only reason why, like get rid of them. You don't want to make mistakes. I'll know, by the way. It's interesting. Have you ever heard the phrase "preaching to the choir"? The people who don't watch these lectures, right? They're the ones who will make those mistakes. But they're also the ones who will not do very well. So remember, we're not just writing essays about literature. We're also talking about writing. Obviously, that's a component that will go into the grade. I mean, can I be any clearer? It's an English course with a specific design, but both of them, are at play. And so, all right. Again, I'm not going to waste your time. Read the notes, okay? But let's just say we were talking about, let's just say there are certain words now, like I said, that don't have the apostrophe that we just looked at. There, whose, right? Things like that. But the majority of the time, when we have a word, and I have it here, I'm just looking now. Actually, I changed it up for this course, right? So let's just say you have a word like John, and you want to show possession of John. So that is John's house. Okay, well, and most of you know this, in English, you would simply write the word John, then apostrophe, then an S. And that's how you show possession. But there are times, and I don't know why, but some students get confused. I'm going off the notes now. I've done this so many times, but the notes are there for you. But there are times where, let's just say we have a word that ends in S, and I want to show possession. That's where we get confused. So, okay, rather than giving you a whole lot of examples, okay, take a look at the one that I've got at number 5, okay, Jones. So let's just say I wanted to show, that is Ben Jones's house. I keep saying house, I don't know why. If you get confused, okay, there's other things I could show you, but I'm gonna keep it simple. If you get confused when it comes to an S ending, here's how to fix that. Draw a mental box. Have you seen Pulp Fiction? Anyway, draw a mental box around the word. Don't change the word. Okay? If the word is Jones, okay, if that's the word like I have here, draw a mental box around the word. don't change the word, the apostrophe goes outside the box. So it would be Jones, because that's his last name, Jones, apostrophe. And again, if you want to come through your computer screen to ask me, all right, can I put the other S after the apostrophe? And again, I don't want to confuse you. Usage says, okay, or at least the rules of grammar say you can, but don't. Okay? Usage tells us we simply don't. And I could get into 20 minutes on that. Just don't, all right? So when you have an S ending of a word, apostrophe, that's it. Okay? Again, if we were in class, we could have a lot of fun with that. And again, I'd confuse the hell out of you, but then I'd bring you back. But I think for an online course, it's better if I just show you, all right, that's how you do that. Okay? And so there you go. And then there's my example in terms of the apostrophe with Ricky's house, right? Because Ricky doesn't end in an S, and so that's where you have the apostrophe S. So that's the difference between the two. Okay? So I think that's pretty straightforward. All right? So remember, if it's an S ending, don't change the word. Okay? Don't worry about the like keep the S in the box. Okay? Keep that S in the box. Apostrophe goes outside. Okay? I think that's clear now, right? Okay? So don't get intimidated by that. It's one of the questions I anticipate every year. Someone always has their hand up because they're not quite sure. So from now on, draw a box. Don't change the word. Keep the S inside the box. Apostrophe goes outside. All right? Okay. And so, again, you can take a look at your notes. I don't want to bore you with all this, right? I've got, the word kittens and what is the possessive case, right? The reason why I'm doing that is to show you, well, because I didn't actually give you context, it could be one or the other, right? In other words, if I simply said, what is the possessive case of kittens? Well, that's kind of unclear, right? Because that could be kitten apostrophe S, or it could be kittens apostrophe. Because I didn't tell you the context. Is it one or the other? If we see something like that on a quiz, I will give you the context so you can figure it out. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Okay. Well, it's right there for you, right? If it's one kitten, okay, the word is kitten, therefore the box goes around. So there it is. At the bottom of page 3, you can figure that one out. All right? Man, this is going by quickly. We're 47 minutes into the lecture. Wow. And again, we're going to have fun for the last 10 minutes, all right? So just a couple more things, all right? And so, yeah, there's also something known as a plural possessive, okay? So I'm just going to have some tea. So there are these things known as a plural possessive. So take a look there. I'm now down where it says it just so happens that in English usage, right? So let's just say I had a whole lot of dogs. I own a whole lot of dogs. And that was their playpen or whatever. Dogs apostrophe. Okay? If I only had one dog, well, then it would be dog apostrophe S. I'm saying the same thing over and over, right? So there you go. Now, one other confusing one. This is a strange one, actually. Not a strange one, but one that I always noticed in writing, and I always wondered. And I only figured this out about 5 years ago, all right? Let's just say you have two possessive subjects, okay? What I mean by that is you've got two subjects in a sentence, okay? In my example, I've got Tom and Mary. Those are the subjects. And sometimes you will see that there's an apostrophe S after each subject, right? And sometimes there isn't. So that's kind of an interesting one. By the way, this has nothing to do with our course. I just found this interesting, all right? And so let's just say that Tom and Mary share a car. Okay, there's only one car that they share, and their car is in the shop. You would actually write it, Tom and Mary's car is in the shop for repair. But let's just say they each had a car. Well, then you would actually write Tom's and Mary's cars are in the shop for the repair. Who cares? All right. All right, anyway. Okay, so now we get to near the end of the lecture and maybe some of the most important stuff. The next thing I'm going to say is maybe one of the most important things I'm going to talk about. I'm going to come back to this over and over and over again. I'm going to show you now. Oh gosh, I get at my wit's end when it comes to what I'm about to talk about now. let's talk about style and take a look at number 6. Words ending in ing. Oh my God. Oh my God. If no one broke you of this habit in high school, chances are I won't be able to either. But please, when you are looking at your essays, let me just think about how I want to explain this. Some of us move into our sentences rather than having the action at the beginning. And that is dangerous. That is dangerous. I'm going to come back to this over and over again. We move into our sentences, okay, because of words ending in ing. So I'm going to say this slowly, even though it's written up there for you, but then I'm going to ask you to write down a sentence to show you what I mean. All right. ing words, when they are not the subject. So again, I'm not going to wait for you to take notes on this. You can pause. When ing words are at the beginning of a sentence and they're not the subject of the sentence, right? They are known or called gerunds. They are huge style wreckers. Huge style wreckers. Avoid words ending in ing when it's at the end. Oh my God. Long day, long day. Avoid words ending in ing when they're at the beginning of the sentence, unless they are the subject. Okay? So, let's do 2 things right now. Again, pause once I've said what I've said. I'm going to give you a sentence, which is perfectly fine, and it's a word that ends in ing. So write this down. Swimming is an enjoyable activity. Okay? Pause, write it down. Swimming is an enjoyable activity. Okay? There is nothing wrong with that sentence. Why? Because the word swimming, which ends in ing, is the subject of the sentence. Okay, again, that's probably a bit confusing, right? Okay, let me show you the one word, okay? I don't even have it there. The one word that you should never, ever, ever begin a sentence with, and again, don't email me because I know there's 1%, there's like one example where you could do it. Don't do that, all right? Like, don't, I was about to say something there, but anyway, don't be a weenie, all right? Think of the word having. Having. Never, ever begin a sentence with the word having. And there are others. I'll get to them. But that's probably the best example, having. And so I'll give you a quick example. It's going to confuse you, but you'll just see, oh my God, what a mess. Having trouble sleeping, the TV, okay, helps me through the night. Having trouble sleeping, the TV helps me through the night. If I was to write a sentence that way, you would think, and by the way, I'm not going to explain today, like I'm not going to go into detail. We're going to get to all of that. All I'm saying for now is don't do it. Don't begin sentences with the word having, all right? Having trouble sleeping, the TV helps me get through the night. If I was to write a sentence that way, the thing that is having trouble sleeping is the TV. Again, don't worry about it for now, right? Okay? Something like that will not be on the first quiz. We're going to get to stuff like that when we get more sophisticated. All I want you to remember for now is don't use having at the beginning of a sentence. That's it. Okay? Done. Simple. Get rid of it. Find a different way to create your sentence where your subject, right, is the thing that is pushing everything else along. Don't back into your thoughts. And that's another great piece of advice for writing. Okay? And so now, as I said, I don't know if there's much more. Yeah, we're getting near the end now. Be another, like, would probably be about an hour, all right? And so, we'll be an hour by the time we get to the end, all right? Another 7 minutes or so. 6 minutes, sorry. I feel like I'm in an eating contest. Anyway, all right. Also, so here's some style things just to highlight, all right? Watch out for phrases like it is, this is, okay, that is, whatever, unless you specify what this is or that is or what have you. That basically, when you have longer paragraphs, oh, by the way, we're going to fix paragraphing as well in this course, right, later on. When you have longer paragraphs and you start to use words like this or it or that, sometimes it can be unclear what you're referring to. Just watch out for phrases like that. That's not to say you can't do it, but just be aware, all right? Okay. And by the way, many of the things that we're finishing on now, they aren't necessarily rules. I'm just trying to show you how to improve your writing. Okay? And remember, I'm the one grading your essays, so you might want to, take my advice. Anyway. The next thing we have on page 5 is split infinitives. If any of you are sticklers when it comes to language, you understand exactly what I mean by that, but I'm not worried about it. Why? There's actually two schools of thought when it comes to grammar, right? There's a school called the prescriptivists, and they're the real sticklers in grammar, and then there's descriptivists, which understand how language changes. And I'm more of the descriptivist camp, right? So if you know what a split infinitive is, okay, I'll give you a quick example. The most famous split infinitive, probably in entertainment, right? In Star Trek, they say to boldly go where no man has gone before, right? Well, a prescriptivist would say, no, you're not supposed to say that. You should say to go boldly where no man has gone before. Again, I'm not worried about stuff like that. All right. The infinitive, it's the construction of to be, to do, to go. And so you don't want to split that up. I'm not too worried about that. All right. So I don't even know why I included it there. I think I included it there simply because I had a couple of years I had students asking me about that. Right. Because again, people were sticklers on that many years ago. I'm not. So don't worry about that. All right. And so we're almost coming to the end now, all right? In your writing, get rid of things like semicolons. We'll talk about it more, okay? In high school, you were probably taught, put a semicolon in whenever you're not sure. Well, that's not the best kind of rule to have, all right? So as we move through the course, I'll show you how, we don't have a paper due for a while. So I'll show you how we can avoid that. Like, let's just say you had a quick sentence, all right? You have to write it down. Terry plays football. Terry plays basketball. Terry plays hockey. So very awkward, choppy, right? So in a case like that, you might be told, all right, put semicolons in between to give it flow. That makes no sense to me whatsoever, right? To give it flow. There's no difference if you were to put a period there or a semicolon. Either way, you're breaking it up. Why not instead go back to what we talked about in the first 10 minutes of this lecture, right? Terry plays football, comma, basketball, comma, and hockey. Boom. Much better. So try and get rid of semicolons, all right? Same thing with dashes. If you're writing a sentence and you kind of have an afterthought or something, and so you kind of just add it in the middle, and then you have another dash and you move back to the thought. Don't do that, okay? I've seen that. Believe it or not, I've seen it all. 30 years, right? I've seen it all, okay? So that's just lazy writing. That's really just lazy writing, all right? Sorry, my tea was getting cold there. And then same thing with parentheses when it comes to actually in the body of your writing. Now, obviously, we will need parentheses when it comes to documentation. We're nowhere near there yet, right? We've only just begun, all right? As the Carpenters once said. If you're my age, you'll get that joke. But anyway, all right. And so, yeah, these things they create lazy writing. Now, we're almost done here. We're coming to almost, like, maybe my favorite, all right? Okay. So let's just say you're writing your essay and you put a word in quotation marks. We're going to talk a lot about this later on, but I think this is a perfect way to end off the lecture. So you're writing, and then there's a word. For some reason, you feel, I should put that in quotation marks. I've actually read studies on why people do that. It's really interesting. When you put a word in quotation marks, for no reason other than just having it in quotation marks, it's your subconscious level telling you this is important. You're not aware of that. Okay, it's your subconscious level telling you this is important. And that's why you do something to that word. The minute you see yourself doing that, chances are you might want to elaborate on what you mean by that word. Okay? And so, let me take a look at the notes here. Okay? I have an idea that's really important or whatever, so I put it in quotation marks, right? Again, subconscious level is telling me this is important. Well, my example, the reason why so many people feel unfulfilled is because of society. What the hell does that mean? Like, you think you've explained it, right? No, you haven't at all. So be aware of that too. Don't just throw quotations around words. The minute you feel like you want to, that's where maybe you want to define things or elaborate. Again, we're going to get into definition and all of that. When do I define? When don't I? Right? We'll get into all of that as well. By the time you write your first paper, I think I mentioned this again in the first lecture, we're going to do a lot before we get to your first paper. Then we're going to do kind of, fine tuning and stuff like that for the second paper. All right? So again, slow down, right? But anyway, yeah, and so I want to finish off. I know I've got a couple of things left on, like 2 things on page 6, but I'll talk about those later on. I think it's best to leave on this note, all right? Okay. About 2 years ago, about 2 years ago, my wife and I were cleaning out. It was around Christmas time, and we were just cleaning stuff out, all right? Things were getting cluttered, and so we came across a cabinet. And we came across this cabinet, and there were old letters and notes and what have you. And I came across, I should mention this, okay? My wife used to be a concert pianist, all right? So very talented and like very, very highly trained, but also a lot of pressure. So she stopped doing it. But for a while there, she gave concerts, she performed. And so I came across this note at the end of one of her recitals, all right? Sorry, this kills me. Thank you for the splendid concert and to wish you the best in the coming years. Okay? Okay, so, sorry, let me just explain. Thank you for the splendid concert, which suggests it was shit, right? Concert, right? And to wish you the best in the coming years. That's almost like a death threat, isn't it? And to wish you the best in the coming years. Anyway, all right. So that was our introduction into just style and stuff like that. Now, I had a bit of fun there at the end, all right? But be aware of these things, okay? Employ them in your writing. It's really interesting that in a writing course, I've noticed this throughout the years. Students take notes, they do whatever, they're very diligent, but they don't apply it at all to their writing. Be aware of these things, all right? So if we're going to take away maybe just one thing today, what is one word you will never start a sentence with? Having. Okay? So please try and apply these things. Again, I think I mentioned in the first lecture, I was not a very good writer when I came to university. I wasn't. I wish someone had shown me all these things, right? I had to, learn them along the way. Employ them in your writing. Apply them in your writing. Your writing will improve. Okay? Anyway, so that was an hour. So I think maybe that's good enough. So I hope the best for you in the coming week. All right? Thanks. Bye.